All right. Let's just see. I'm going to get the chat box opening here.
Okay. Are we live now?
We are live.
Awesome.
Well, for those who are here, welcome to this live session with Dr. Linda Codner. Codner. Did I say
Codner.
Codner?
Yeah, you
Okay.
got it.
All right. So we're here with Linda today. I twisted her arm. I asked her, I said, you need to change up how you're doing things. And, we should try you on YouTube. So reluctantly, she agreed. And so here we are. We're doing her first. There, Kimberly Gray is on. Thanks, Kimberly, for coming and joining with us. My name's Gary Robillard. I'm a friend of Linda's and also a patient, as it may happen to be. And so I convinced her to do this YouTube thing. And again, like I said, reluctantly, she decided, sure, I'd go for it. And so I'd really like it. Oh, we got a thumbs up, Linda. We got a thumbs up from Kimberly, I think it was. Um, so what I'd like to do is, as we're going through this, you can give me some feedback or give us some feedback whether you like this format or not. And what we're trying to do is, if this is something that kind of connects with people, where Linda can come on a regular basis, share some thoughts and ideas, have some questions asked to her, because I'm sure a bunch of you out there have questions that maybe don't get the chance to get them answered. And then you have some time with Linda to ask your questions, and hopefully she'll be kind enough to give some of her wisdom off. All right. So, Linda, we're talking today about fluoride. Now,
Mm,
I've had my own things. You and I haven't really talked a lot about fluoride. And so, I've had my own kind of beliefs behind it. In fact, I went to the dentist, I think it was a year ago, for a cleaning, and I said, hey, I don't want fluoride. I didn't know really why. I just heard rumors that, hey, maybe it's not as healthy for you. And so I decided that, I'll make my choice and say, no, not interested. Thanks very much. And, um, and then you and I started talking, and I went, oh my gosh, I'm glad that I didn't take the fluoride, because I had no idea what was mixed up in that cocktail of stuff. And so now in Calgary, you guys are having, I don't know if it's a plebiscite or whether it's a vote and you can kind of discuss that in a sec here, a vote on whether they have fluoride in the water in the treatment. And so that's the reason for this particular live stream today, is to kind of just discuss, is this a good thing, a bad thing? What is it really? What's the skinny? And so, Linda not only is a naturopath, but she's a pharmacist as well. So she knows the science, and she knows the natural part of healing people. And so, she has a unique perspective from the way I look at things. She's got a unique perspective of things that I just don't have. And so it's really nice to have her share her wisdom with us today. So, Linda, what's the deal with this fluoride?
yeah, it's definitely an issue these days, amongst other things, as we well know in the media. Um, and thanks for the thumbs up on pharmacy and conventional medicine has a place in our lives. However, I do choose to approach any of the health issues from a more holistic perspective. In other words, enhancing our own health and working with our bodies, as opposed to doing more damage through diet, lifestyle, lack of vitamins, exercise, all these other things. And sometimes life gets away on us and we get behind the eight ball. So we need to pull in all the reins to go back to balance. And fluoride is one of those issues in the news right now, where we're revisiting that in Calgary. And it's really got me hot, because today I found out that we were censored from putting in a rerun of this particular ad in the Calgary Herald, which summarizes Safe Water Calgary's position with regards to all Calgarians deserve access to clear, clean, unmedicated water. And fluoride is not technically a medicine, it's not a vitamin, and it is definitely a neurotoxin. And as we move forward in our science and through our years of experience with fluoride, we're finding more and more data being collected that it is not a healthy thing, as you mentioned. This is not to our advantage. It does not reduce cavities to the extent that it's claimed.
What's the composition? Because I thought it was just fluoride. So if it's not just fluoride, which is fluoride is in nature, what's the composition of this stuff? Why is it a neurotoxin? Why is it so bad for us? And so there's a two question here. I'll start with that one. Like, what is it? And then why is the city pushing it? So let's start with the first part of what is it really if it's not just fluoride?
Right. So naturally occurring fluoride in the granite coming from the Rocky Mountains would be in the form of calcium fluoride. And it's at a very low percentage rate naturally. It's usually around 0.05. And to understand these numbers that I might pull out of my hat, that 0.05 milligrams per liter. So that's really not at a toxic level. We've
So
measured.
does so does the naturally occurring calcium fluoride, does it actually help with teeth, or do you have to take buku amounts of it in order to it? It's like Cheerios, right? Hey, Cheerios is good for your heart, but yeah, you need to have 20 bowls of Cheerios before it actually does anything for you, right? So is this the same sort of a thing? Like, does it actually help your teeth?
I don't think we'd go out of our ways to find water sources that contain fluoride to make the difference. I think
Right.
that's the short answer there.
Yeah.
Um, the stuff we're going to be adding to our water in my newsletter, I spelt it out there. It's fluorosilicic acid, and it's a it's a byproduct of making pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers. They literally scrape the inside out of the containers that's
Oh,
produced.
you're kidding me.
No, it's a toxic substance. They have to find
Oh my God.
toxic, like to dump it. And here they're finding a market to sell it. So
I
it only,
I I am I mean we've talked about this before. You told me this before, but every time I hear this, it's like just it like makes my skin crawl. It's like, are you serious? We're actually putting this garbage, for lack of a better term, this toxic garbage into our bodies, and everybody's like, yeah, it's good for our teeth. Oh my gosh, take your kids to the dentist, have them brush your teeth. What the heck? Oh my goodness. Okay, so elaborate. Sorry,
no,
I'm
no,
just
no.
every time I hear that, I just oh gives me the willies. Like somebody would actually purposely put toxin in their body. You might as well go to the dump and just start eating whatever, eh? Oh my
No.
gosh.
Get your dose of lead, arsenic, cadmium, whatever else is in there too. I mean, those are highly, there's zero tolerance for those types of metals and chemicals. We just haven't arrived at the scientific awakening to realize that these are this fluoride that we're adding to the water, and 98% of the world is not fluoridated. So the
98%. So us 2% of the higher ups, the 1% of the world, we're purposely putting this garbage into our bodies. Oh my goodness. And
and the
so
word,
why doesn't the like the city of Calgary, for an example, why
yeah.
don't they look at the science behind this instead of saying, hey, let's go put this in the water when we really don't need to? It's not our responsibility. It's not our accountability to to look after the teeth of our citizens. And, they're putting this stuff in their body. Where did they come to this? Or where did many communities come to this um, epiphany, for lack of a better term, that, oh, we should go and put this stuff in the water?
Well, it's kind of like anything good scientific um, recognition. Like we know gravity works, but hey, maybe we should keep revisiting understanding how gravity works, and maybe we can move into understanding magnetism. Like just because you discover something doesn't mean you shelve it and don't revisit it. And that's basically what we've done with fluoride from the 30s and 40s. They decided that they observed kids that were doing better with these teeth that were also modeled brown and white spotted, but they didn't have the cavities, but they had fluoride toxicity. So they figured if they controlled the concentration in the water, that maybe they could do a double benefit. But no further studies were followed up with other ramifications that were going on at the same time. Can you believe it?
Since
And
since the 1930s?
since the 1930s,
Whoa, a little dated.
a little dated, and hence these old belief systems that politicians and average people and the dental community still continue to hang on to these conceptions without looking at the broader impact. Um, I don't know. I feel disappointed that politicians and other educators don't look at the science, or
Right.
they're completely unaware of it. They just go along with hearsay.
Yeah. Yeah. So what, so here we are, we're putting these toxins into our body, or we're allowing people. So is this a lack of education to the community that they don't know? Because I can still remember, I have a friend of mine that works with gases, right? He checks gases in buildings to find out if there's too much CO or CO2, and he did an experiment with fluorescent light bulbs, and he broke it off, and he said, look how much mercury is coming off, and we used to break those tubes when we were kids, and we didn't know, and here we were breathing this mercury, and we had no idea, and he said I can't remember how much it was, but it was like just such a minute amount of mercury could poison a lake. I think it was how many tubes of fluorescent tubes it was. It wasn't very many, like 10 or 15. It was really small that could pollute a whole lake. And I'm going, wow. And then it's like a lack of education to the community. And here we are, taking this stuff. What can we do? I mean, the vote's on Monday, but what can we do to educate the populace to say, look, do you guys know what you're doing? It's like one of those things you don't see. You don't see it. It's not in front of you, so you don't deal with it. I mean, if somebody was pointing a gun in front of you, you'd go, oh, okay, we better do something. But
Yeah.
here we are saying, hey, here's this fluoride. It's good for you. And we're like a bunch of lemmings going, sure, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah,
How
the
do we
curious.
change that thought,
I,
or
I
the way
totally
people
get it.
perceive it?
Yeah, I totally understand. And the curious, well, you can go to safewatercalgary.com's website. They have two excellent, short, very intense um, explanation as to the history of fluoride and why we need to be revisiting it and challenging the current thought. I mean, science is about revisiting and reworking what we understand, not just taking blanket statements and making application with that. So my concern, there's definite data on hypothyroidism being linked to fluoride because it increases TSH, particularly those that are iodine deficient. And there's many of us that are. And how can we determine those things? Well, you can use hair mineral analysis and get an understanding of your selenium content, which is also linked to thyroid health. There's many ways to assess your current body status. What you don't want to do is add more substances that you don't have control over into your environment, into your food chain, without any control. So the concern is that we have a concentration in the water, the allowable concentration. The natural one is 0.05. The um, the amount they're adding to our city water is roughly 0.7. We're dependent on people um, doing this accurately for a tune of $30 million for the taxpayers' dollars, which, by the way, a lot of that is being flushed downstream because we're not all drinking it.
Yeah.
We're also bathing in it, washing it, doing the gardens, etc. And we do not have any studies on the bioaccumulation in the environment. So
Wow.
how can we be doing this without further investigation?
Yeah.
The old adage is just not hanging on there. I don't know. There's lots of information out there. People can look into it. You're right. It is about educating the general public about these studies. In pregnancy and young children, it's not helpful to their teeth if their teeth have not erupted yet,
Right.
for one thing. And it
Um,
doesn't.
just a sec. Just I just want to just a shout out to all who are listening. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat, and then you can have Linda answer your questions. So sorry to interrupt, Linda, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that hey, if you've got questions or comments, please put them in the chat. We'll bring them up, and we'll make sure that Linda addresses them for you. So just wanted to put that out there
Oh,
for you.
I'll do my best.
All right,
And
so go ahead, Linda. Sorry to interrupt.
no, there's a lot of scientific data that people can look at. And like I was saying, the videos on Safe Water Calgary, of which I'm part of the executive committee on this, is doing their best to provide all this up-to-date information and have people ask questions. Yes, they'd be open to having questions and explaining things too. If you're hanging on to old information under the belief that we are reducing cavities, that is not the whole picture. It's an endocrine disruptor, it's a neurotoxin. It does not belong in our public water system.
So what kind of all right, so people are taking fluoride. Let's just say they're going to the dentist and doing those, the fluoride treatments once a year or however often they do it, or they're drinking water. Say Calgary says, yeah, we're going to put fluoride in. They're drinking that water. What kind of now? I know that there's around 50,000 man-made toxins right now that we are exposed to daily. I have a friend of mine who's done the research on this, and and so you look at this and so we have all of this already around us, and now we're putting this stuff in our body. What kind of ramifications, health ramifications, can we have? I'm sure there's a lot of them, but what are some of the ones that kind of surface to the top for you that we should be concerned about and say, look, these are some of the things. I'm sure there's a lot of them.
Yeah, like you mean you want me to pick the top five out of
Yeah,
50?
sure. Yeah, the top five.
Okay.
What's your top five for the?
For the no-no list? Well, mercury as part of that whole picture of fluoride. We're not doing mercury amalgams as much as we used to, so that's kind of quietly been dribbling away too. An interesting thing. And then cadmium, arsenic, lead, aluminum. These are all also as agricultural byproducts. You don't have to be working in a gas plant or anything else to gain exposure to these. And also, people even working in those environments coming home can impact those in the home with those types of heavy metals in their system or being exposed to and off gassing, as awful as that sounds. Yeah.
So are you
So
saying that? So are you saying this fluoride has those things in it?
yes,
Oh, really?
fluoride.
So
Fluoride will
so
also have a certain amount of those particular chemicals, particularly cadmium, arsenic, and lead. Those have been shown to be
okay.
in.
So those are the elements that are coming in that we're partaking of. Um, and I'm sure there's some other chemicals other than those derivatives. And how are they affecting us? Like like health wise, what would be your top health wise things?
Yes, they deposit in tissues, a variety of them. Joints are and bones in particular. In fact, fluoride high areas, for example, in natural occurring fluoride areas in Africa and India. Therefore, if we get any food from South Africa or India, that is also in the water that is fed to those fruits and vegetables. But people are getting deformed joints and also the hyperfluorosis, not just of their teeth, but of the bones. And then they're more predisposed to osteoporotic fractures. So that's one of the things, both lead and fluoride can contribute to more fractures of bone. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
Um,
it's subtle to different
Kimberly's
tissues.
got a message here. She says reducing fluoride into YYC's water will cost the city $30 million annually, with an annual operating costs up to $4 million. What would
Yeah.
that money be better subsidized? Better subsidized dental care. Thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. Again, putting it into programs in schools where they educate not just the kids it's the parents. So I'm starting to believe we need parenting programs via the school. There's no sense just telling the 8-year-old that he has to eat less sugar and brush his teeth. We got to have the parents on board. Yeah, most definitely. So programs like that, there is programs in Scotland called the Scottish Child Smile,
Oh, wow.
and it's all about eating well and oral hygiene, and also stress. Stress is an issue for dental decay and gum disease. It isn't due to a lack of fluoride.
Mm. So, so the lack of fluoride isn't the solution to all, or adding fluoride isn't the solution to this. It's more of the parenting, making sure the kids are brushing their teeth, the having regular checkups and cleanings and that sort of stuff, and doing their due diligence that way, which makes sense. And so how?
I, I have lots of patients that, unfortunately for anybody in the dental community, they brush their teeth twice a day, floss their teeth after every meal, and they never go to the dentist
Yeah,
because they feel that their oral hygiene is right up to snuff. And if they don't have any pain, that's how they're managing themselves. So there are extremes out there too, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That
They
makes
have good
sense.
diets yeah. So there's other things that I believe that can take the place of that focus of cash. Definitely, education is super important. Here we are blasting everybody with this education at the 11th hour before a plebiscite. I don't believe the population should necessarily be voting on everybody's behalf. I have patients that react terribly to fluoride treatments in the dental office. So if they have to deal with it in their water, that would not be a reasonable thing for
Mm,
those people.
right.
So, but fluoride is available to those that want that treatment. I
Yeah.
think we have to be open minded as to can they still get it? Yeah. The
So
study, I got to say, Gary, what really bugs me is that there's this comparison of Edmonton to Calgary. Edmonton has fluoridated water and Calgary doesn't. And they claim that there was a study done that our cavity rate was going up when actual it wasn't. If you take all of the data and statistics as usual, it's always bent or misleading. If you have a certain position that you want to defend, the while Edmonton was fluoridated, their cavity rate fluctuated.
yeah,
So obviously, having fluoride in the water didn't mean you had no cavities. It went up and down in different time
yeah,
frames.
yeah.
And
And
Calgary's,
that's kind of a, yeah, the numbers really don't, they're very subjective. Numbers are subjective because you could have a group of people that, that they're not, the parents don't really care, their kids are eating junk food, and they're just whatever, and so you get this blip on there that really doesn't reflect the populace at large. And I have a friend that works at a university down in the United States, and he's a statistician. He said, I can make stuff. He says, you really have to have some morals when you're a statistician, because you can tweak stuff to make it look however you want. You can have it lean to one side or the other. And he says, you really have to have a moral core when you're presenting data, because it can be skewed any way you want. And so that's the scary thing is, if it's to my advantage, then I'll present it. If it's not, then I won't. Right. So you have to be careful with what kind of data we have and who it's coming from, and whether it was an independent company that was doing it. But nonetheless, you know, we've got a bit of a dilemma here where forced fluoridation is coming our way, and how do we deal with it? I mean, education is one thing, getting people to understand that they're putting these toxins in, but that's a long haul process. And really, the only way to get that out is through some sort of media and try to educate people. And some people will go, whatever, I don't see it, so it's not really affecting me. And then others will say, well, yeah, that makes sense. I better pay attention here. And so you're going to get, just like we've had with COVID, you're going to get two sides. You're going to get people on the left and on the right, and some are for masking and doing all the protocols and getting their shots, and others are not. And and I'm trying to understand both sides is a difficult thing. So we could run in, or probably are running into the same situation here.
Well, it's a sensitive issue. I think it's where did they dump this toxic byproduct? Well, let's sell it. And who's making money that way?
Yeah.
And then why are people not doing a comprehensive look at the scientific data? It's pretty obvious. I'm not sure what the agenda is there. Extremists could also say that they're dumbing down the populations, but because the IQ goes down, there's indication of ADD being associated to fluoride.
Really?
Yes.
I must have drank gallons of it when I was a kid then, because I got adult ADD, and so I don't know what happened there. I must have fell in a vat or something. I'm not sure, but I
I know. Better check with your mother.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, this is really interesting stuff, and there's a lot of there's actually a lot of items that we could talk about in future
Oh,
live
complete.
streams because of this, because there's cascading things that come off of talking about toxins, talking about how do we deal with it. And the fact of the thing is the people who want to look after their health will go and look after their health, and they will seek those who have the knowledge and the expertise to do that, and others won't. They want to live life, they want to just carry on and don't care, and it catches up. It really does catch up over time. There's a book out there for any of you that want to read it. It's called The Slight Edge, and it talks about incremental things that affect us over time. And the author, he talks about how if I told you that eating that hamburger would give you a heart attack, you'd probably wouldn't eat it. But it's one of those things that eating the hamburger every day for 30 years, that's when the heart attack comes. So it's these little incremental things like brushing our teeth twice a day and flossing that can give us that longevity and healthy teeth, and not have to worry about having cavities that can affect our heart, because that does affect our heart.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. It's maintenance. It's looking after ourselves, and some people just really it's not
Well,
in them to do that.
they wait till it's an emergency, and that's why we have a healthcare system that's based on emergency.
Yeah.
It's not prevention. It's not looking at data to keep us, healthy or support what we know will protect us.
Right.
Um, I think that's very important. And you can read a lot of books about health, and you can Google Dr. Google all you want, but at the end of the day, how does it apply to you and
Yeah.
your circumstances? That's where we need to go. Some people may be able to process fluoride better than others. We don't know that because it's not studied.
Right.
And there's other factors that come into play, and there's a lot of other interesting things that we can look at. One of my favorites that I think I'm going to suggest we do as a discussion is never well since. So
Right.
never well since applies to a lot of different health crises that happened back 10, 12, 5 years ago. It can be something social and emotional, or it can actually be a trauma. Ever since I had that surgery, ever since I had that flu, whatever, I haven't been the same since. So that's an interesting discussion, because people will often come in, and it was something I didn't know or hear about um, as a pharmacist and trained medically until I moved over to naturopathic medicine. So I think that'd be an awesome topic
Yeah.
as a future discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely pinch into that one, because I could raise my hand to that. I've never been well since, and we we'll leave that for the next topic. We'll just kind of we'll see what we pull out of our hat for the next topic. So we're coming up to the top of the hour. We promised to only have this around a half an hour, just to see how things are going. Any comments? Any comments out there of what do you think of this format? Do you think that this would help the community, for those who are looking for the other side, where we got someone like Linda, who has this 30 plus years of expertise on both sides of the camp, modern medicine as well as holistic medicine, and being able to provide kind of a perspective from both sides. Where some of us, I kind of lean into the natural side, um, just because that's just the way I am. My wife, who is a registered nurse, she's the other side. But I've over the years, and it's taken a few, to kind of get her to maybe just have a look at this side. And so it's interesting to to have those two perspectives. So those who are out there, just in the comments, just say, hey, yeah, this is a good format. We like it. We'd like to see more. And if that's the case, then this is something that that Linda can kind of start driving forward with.
Oh my God, you're gonna have to help me, Gary. No, I think it'll work, and it'll be fun to have question and answers coming in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of them out there. I know, I mean, you and I talk quite often, and so I mean, you answered a lot of my questions, but I'm sure a lot of people are out there wondering, what about this and what about that, and really, where do you get the truth? And for me, you don't see it on my wall back there, but I've got a gold pan, and it's a metaphor for me of sifting through to find the nuggets or the flecks of truth that are out there, because there's so much stuff that um, fake news, I don't care, whatever you want to call it, stuff that's really not accurate, maybe has a sliver of truth, but really is really not that accurate. And so for me, I like panning for the truth. I like to find out what's really the truth here. And Linda is the same sort of person. She kind of goes down, and she'll go down the rabbit hole a long ways to find out, well, what's what, and then present that to her patients and her friends, and even me. Um,
Well, balance is important. It's all about balance, and it's all about. I prefer a natural approach. I think Mother Nature has always done everything better.
yeah, yeah,
It's when man starts to interfere that it seems to go sideways. So, and the individual, like what's true for you may not be true for someone else. And we have to respect differences, and we may not know all the differences.
right.
So, you know, that this newsletter on this subject sparked a lot of curiosity from me, because this is a very split, um, what could you say, preferential, as does a lot of things with the COVID and the whole pandemic. And they're wondering, why hasn't Linda made any comments about COVID, and where do we go with this sort of information out there?
Right.
And that would be a great discussion too at another point in time. Um, so if people are interested in that, I'm happy to indulge in that kind of conversation. That's easy peasy.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Linda, thanks so much for your time. Thank all those who decided to show up on this Saturday morning while they're drinking their coffee and relaxing, and just having a listen in to see what what Linda's thoughts were with regards to fluoride, and maybe what we can do. Go out and vote. Put your voice forward, and let's see if it makes a difference. But if to have
It's not
forced
over.
fluoridation on, I just, that cringes and
Well,
bothers me.
that's a big one. And even if the public, apparently, even if the public vote pro or against, city council can still veto that decision.
Good to know. Good to know. Well, with that, thank you very much, Linda. Thank all those who showed up. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to twisting Linda's arm on the next one, and doing the same thing. We'll come up with a topic that is challenging and maybe controversial, like
Yes.
maybe something like COVID and the after effects. I don't know. I'm just kidding, but we'll come up with something that will be interesting, we hope. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your weekend. Go and vote on Monday if you live in Calgary. And all the best to you, and good health. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Bye.
Now I got to stop the recording. Oh, there we are.